Hello, I'm Mark Hargreaves, Professor of Physiology at the University of Melbourne here in Australia. As a parochial sports fan, it was a great thrill when Cadel Evans became the first Australian to win the Tour de France. As a physiologist, I was intrigued by how he achieved it, what changes were taking place as he rode for nearly 3 weeks through the mountains and hills of France. Welcome to Exercise Physiology, Understanding the Athlete Within. In this course, we'll cover a few select topics on aspects of exercise physiology. What we see in an elite athlete is equally relevant to the weekend warrior who incorporates structured exercise or sport as part of his or her active lifestyle. There are 6 modules that we'll cover over the next 6 weeks. The first will deal with muscle. We'll look at muscle contraction and energetics, muscle fibre types, recruitment and performance, and muscle adaptations to different types of exercise. In the second module, we'll look at fuels for exercise. We'll examine and provide an overview of exercise metabolism, and then look specifically at how carbohydrates and fats are utilised during exercise. Those carbohydrates and fats are used in combination with oxygen. And the third module will focus on how muscles take up oxygen and how the cardiovascular and respiratory systems deliver oxygen to contracting skeletal muscles. And we'll finish by considering some of the determinants and limits of maximal oxygen uptake, the most widely accepted measure of cardiorespiratory or aerobic fitness. In the fourth module, we'll examine how the body gets rid of the heat that's produced during exercise, what happens to the physiological and metabolic responses to exercise when the environmental temperature is increased, and given the importance of sweating for heat loss, we'll examine fluid balance and fluid replacement during exercise. The fifth module will examine fatigue and limits to sports performance. We'll examine the interactions between what we call central mechanisms of fatigue and peripheral mechanisms, those that occur within the contracting skeletal muscles themselves. And we'll examine 2 extremes of sports performance: high intensity, short duration sprinting, and more prolonged endurance type exercise like we see in endurance events like the Tour de France. And finally, given the amazing advances in molecular biology in the last 50 years or so, we'll examine the relationship between genes, training adaptations, and sports performance, and perhaps ponder the question, are athletes born or are they made? During this course, there'll be 2 quizzes, one at the end of week 2 and the second at the end of week 4, to give you some feedback on how things are going. There'll be an assignment on an aspect, an integrative aspect of endurance exercise performance, and then the final assessment that will cover all of the material that we've covered in the 6 weeks. Hopefully, at the end of the course, you'll have a greater understanding of exercise physiology and the athlete within.